When you sit down to pick a document scanner, the first thing that creeps in is the doubt. Will this thing actually keep up with my workload, or will it sit half-finished on my desk while I scramble for a workaround? That hesitation is especially real for small business owners, busy home offices, and anyone who handles a steady stream of paperwork. I'm going to walk through the Fujitsu Image 8270 with that exact question in mind, so you can see whether the promises line up with what you'll actually get day in, day out. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Image 8270 lands in the middle of Fujitsu's next-generation scanner lineup, marketed as a workhorse that blends a 100-page automatic document feeder, ADF, with a flatbed surface. That combination sounds like a win-win, but the real test is how it behaves when you're feeding in mixed-size invoices, glossy brochures, or a stack of handwritten notes that have been folded over time. In practice, the ADF pulls the paper through with a confidence that feels almost industrial, which is a big deal if you've ever watched a feeder jam on a half-rolled PDF because a single crumpled edge stalled the whole batch. Let's start with the kind of user who'll feel right at home with this scanner. If you run a legal firm, an accounting office, or any operation that regularly digitizes large batches of documents, think 50 to 200 pages per session, the Image 8270's 100-page feeder is a genuine time saver. The feeder can be left loaded while you finish a coffee, and by the time you're back, the machine has already cranked out a searchable PDF. The included PaperStream ClickScan software adds a layer of simplicity. You tap a button, set a destination folder, and the software automatically applies OCR, so the text inside the scanned files is selectable. For people who need to integrate scanned files directly into an ECM, Enterprise Content Management, system, the fact that the scanner talks to both TWAIN and ISIS drivers over a USB connection means you can drop it into almost any existing workflow without needing a custom integration layer. Now, who should think twice before buying? If you're a casual user who only scans a few receipts or occasional photos, the Image 8270 might be overkill. The machine's footprint is larger than a typical consumer flatbed, and the 100-page feeder is a feature you won't really exploit. In that scenario, a smaller, lower-cost scanner with a 20-page feeder would meet the need and keep the desk space clearer. Also, the scanner does not include wireless connectivity. You have to plug it directly into a computer via USB. If your office is set up for network devices and you rely on multiple users sharing a single scanner, you'll need to add a print server or a network-enabled hub, which adds complexity and cost. Speaking of costs, the value proposition of the Image 8270 isn't just the hardware, it's the reliability that comes from Fujitsu's clear image capture technology. In everyday use, that translates to consistently clean scans without the ghosting or streaks that sometimes appear on lower-priced units when they encounter glossy paper or carbon copies. I've seen users report that the scanner can handle carbon receipts without the usual smearing, which is a subtle but important advantage if you're dealing with expense reports that include a mix of paper types. There are, however, a couple of practical trade-offs that surface once you move past the unboxing. The first is the learning curve of the software. While ClickScan aims for simplicity, its interface can feel a bit dated, and you may need to spend a few minutes customizing the output settings to match your preferred naming conventions or file formats. It's not a deal-breaker, but it does mean that you'll have to allocate a short onboarding period before you can scan, set it, and forget it. The second point is noise. The ADF motor is robust, which is great for durability, but it does generate a noticeable hum during operation. In a quiet office or a shared workspace, that sound can be audible from across the room, so you might want to plan its use when it won't disturb colleagues or clients. Let's put this into a concrete scenario. Imagine you run a small insurance agency that receives a daily influx of claim forms, supporting documents, and signed contracts. Your typical workflow involves collecting a stack of 75 mixed-size sheets, loading them into the feeder, and having them instantly digitized and filed into the agency's cloud-based document management system. With the Image 8270, you can accomplish this without manually feeding each page, and the OCR built into ClickScan makes the text searchable, which saves your team from manually entering data later. The speed, roughly 40 pages per minute for standard text documents, means you're not bottlenecked by the scanner, and the reliability reduces the need for rescanning, which would otherwise waste time and paper. Contrast that with a freelance graphic designer who only needs to scan occasional sketches and client proofs. For this person, the bulk of the FI 8270's capability would sit idle, and the cost of the unit could be better allocated.